brought up the international realities, international challenges, and how you can't just be an insurance company can't just be, particularly at a time of uncertainty, in a time of not being sure who the real government's going to be. You can't just be under the one nation, certainly at that time. And when I asked about any big names, you mentioned Alexander Hamilton, and you mentioned Morse. I don't think you mentioned Ben Franklin, who's I think made the first U.S. Is that true? They made the first U.S. chartered insurance company, the Philadelphia Contributionship.
It's a group, so that's one of his groups. He's not in it for profit. The contributionship is intended to help mitigate losses through fire and insuring people against fire. But he's not in charge of this leap into joint stock corporations, companies for profit. And the success rate of projects like the contributionship is pretty. It's a little uneven because on the one hand, it's very nice to have a non-capitalist approach without shareholders. On the other hand, because groups like the contributionship don't keep that much money on hand, they can be a little bit at a loss if there is a big fire. And not only that, but they can be at a little bit of a loss when they come to collect additional premiums from people and people don't want to pay up.
Yeah, no, it's the argument for government as an insurer, right? That nonprofit insurance company sounds great, but has capital challenges. One could imagine, a multi-billionaire bequesting enough to have a nonprofit insurance company that worked, and that would have a better loss. One of the horrifying things I learned when I learned about insurance was, and I already gave it away. I gave away my viewpoint when I said horrifying, but I was in a cab with a delightful couple who owned an insurance company. They were going to their very nice place in some darn coastal town, and we started talking. We had a long cab ride, and so we had real time to talk. And I'm curious, ask questions, and I asked about what they did. They ran an insurance company, and I said, "So how much?" And after many questions, after much discussion, I said, "How much do you guys pay out in premiums to share your business?" And I will never forget this quote. They said, "Well, the regulators like us to keep about at least a 30% loss ratio, and we'd say pretty close to that." And I said, well, "What's a loss ratio?" And they said, "Oh, that's the amount that we pay out in premiums." And I said, wait, you call that the loss ratio? Like not the benefit ratio, not the service ratio, not the reason you're in business ratio. And then I realized, oh no, it's not the reason they're in business. And so that meant that 30%, compare that to Medicare, Medicaid, which is fractions, single points, not tens of points of that. So that's the argument against sort of thinking about insurance as primarily a way to drive profit. Because again, if I go and get a hamburger, the incentive of the burger maker is that they want me to eat another burger. But insurance company just wants me to buy the burger. They never want me to eat the burger. And that's the argument for the nonprofit insurance company. You just made the argument against it. The argument in favor of the government is, well, the government has capital, and the government can also make people pay up, and it works pretty well.